Hopefully that was really a good set of tips and tools and things to think about going back home tonight. I'll be quite quick because we're running out of time, but we thought we would wrap up with a lot of energy. And Sherilyn, I've known Sherilyn for a while and heard her speak at a number of events, and I think she embodies enthusiasm, inspiration, and leadership. So really good to hear her talk, as always. So I'll kind of very quickly introduce Sherilyn, for those who don't know her, and then let her later take on. So Sherilyn Shackell is founder and CEO of the Marketing Academy. The Marketing Academy is a non-profit organisation dedicated to the development of leadership talent, specifically in marketing and advertising. It was launched in the UK in 2010 and then recently in Australia in 2014. And previously, Sherilyn spent 25 years in search and talent management, so as a recruiter and owning a recruitment company. So she's also quite an expert in that field. I'll just leave it with. Actually, I thought it was a really interesting point. She's driven by the belief that every person has the ability to achieve something truly exceptional, which I'm sure is part of what you want to talk about. So I'll leave it to you now. Welcome, Sherilyn. Thank you.
I can't believe I'm actually being filmed. So anybody watching this at home, it adds 4 stone, not 10 4 stone. How many of us have got a girl crush on Anne? Isn't she fabulous? Right, I thought I'd start by just telling you a little bit about me, because as you've just heard, I did spend half my life, given that I'm over 50, so I'm probably 60 seconds away from hot flush. Half my life as a headhunter, as a recruiter. And I've got to tell you, I'm hoping to share some tips that I never knew, which is why I ended up spending half my year as a headhunter, which frankly is a really shitty industry. I spent half my life doing a job that I was actually quite good at, but never loved. Never ever loved it. Never made my heart beat faster, wasn't my passion, and therefore was miles away from what I ultimately found out was my purpose. But I got until quite late in my life, I think, to discover that actually I'd been wasting time in an industry I didn't like. I got into the industry, I fell into it. I was in a pub in my early 20s. I was a bit wild when I was young. I was really thin and gorgeous and just a bit wild. And I was in a pub and I was kind of at a point in my career where I didn't know what to do. And some bloke said to me, "You should get into recruitment, you should." And I said, "Should I? What's that then?" And he said, "Well, you know, it's making money out of getting people jobs." And I thought, "Oh, that's interesting." And I said, "Well, what do you need to be good at to get into recruitment?" And he said, "You don't need to be good at anything." Well, that's the job for me, I thought. So I literally fell into that job. And like I said, I was quite good at it, and it can be quite lucrative, so I did make a bit of money, and I ended up owning my own business, but I never ever loved it. And so my passion is around developing people, developing talent, enabling people to be the best they can be. And I had a bit of an epiphany in my life about 8 years ago, where I nearly died. I've got a serious illness, flashing lights, intensive care, the doctor saying, well, this illness, at a score of 10, they die, score of 1, she'll go home with a pill. Told my husband I was a score of 9. So I was literally minutes away from dying. And I honestly think that having been in the industry that I was in for the time I was in it, actually led to that illness. Very, very stressed, in a lot of debt because I bought my company, and not doing something that was filling my soul with joy. So it was coming out of that illness that led me on a very, very different path and ultimately enabled me to step into my purpose, which is Marketing Academy. And I'm not going to talk about Marketing Academy, and that's killing me because I could talk about Marketing Academy for hours. So please look it up because it's super cool. But I'm here actually to talk about you. Can you click on just one? So we are really fortunate in the Academy that we get to meet loads and loads and loads of really, really fabulous leaders like Anne and her boss Ronan, who is really gorgeous. It's come to talk to our Academy a lot. So we get really great speakers all over the world. And we had a speaker recently come to a boot camp in Australia, and he's called Nigel Marsh, and he's done a TED Talk, so look him up because the TED Talk's really cool. He wrote a book called Fat, 40 and Fired, with a subtext of overworked and underlaid. So typical Aussie bloke. But he gave us this quote, and I thought, oh my God, that's amazing. He said, "The reality of the society we're in is there are thousands and thousands of people out there leading lives of quiet desperation, where they work long, hard hours at jobs they hate to enable them to buy things they don't need to impress people they don't like." And I thought, what the fuck is that about? Oh my God, if I do anything in my life, I want to save people from being in that position. And unfortunately, as a headhunter for 25 years, I met a lot of people who were feeling like that. So I'm going to just share some tips and thoughts and views of the academy. So can you click on? So Nelson Mandela, because he was just wonderful, said, "I am the master of my fate and the captain of my destiny." And I think the quote is amazing. I'm a great lover of quotes as well, so you're going to see a few. I'm not original enough to come up with some myself. But of course, Nelson Mandela was absolutely marvellous, so it was really quite easy for him to step in to master his own destiny. Can you click on? It's just that sometimes we feel that being master of our own destiny is a bit tough. It's very easy just to take the path of least resistance and stay in bed and pass the responsibility for our futures and our lives over to other people. It's kind of the easiest thing to do, isn't it? But actually, it's not taking responsibility. And the one thing that we teach a lot within the Marketing Academy is about leadership. And we don't talk about leadership from a position of people management. We talk about leadership about taking ownership and responsibility for your life. Our philosophy of leadership is that if you're in a position of influence over anybody else in your life, then you are indeed a leader. You don't need to be in a people management position. If you've got influence over anybody, you are a leader. And great leaders take responsibility for everything that they do. They take responsibilities for the choices that they make and the decisions that they take. And if you're in a position of influence over somebody else, that just means that you've got friends or colleagues or peers or sisters or brothers. Influence over anybody means that you are able to influence somebody else to be the best that they can be. But you need to choose whether or not you're going to be a leader. And the place that it starts is right inside you. And sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes it's really easy to think, I'm not progressing in my career because the company that I work for isn't managing my career for me. Well, that's kind of putting the responsibility for your future outside of yourself. And what we like to talk about is that you are totally empowered to take responsibility for those choices that you make. And this is what stops us most of the time, right? Anne mentioned it earlier, you heard it a few times from Anne. I have yet to meet a successful person, to be honest, male or female, that at some point in their career doesn't sit on the toilet at 4 o'clock in the morning thinking, oh my God, I'm going to get caught out, they're going to find me out, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know how I got here, I am not worthy, I'm not good enough for this, I'm going to be judged by people who are better than me. It really is endemic I know that women have this far, far more than men, but men have it too. And it's an imposter syndrome thing. I have it in Australia a lot. It's part of their psyche. It is an imposter syndrome. You actually feel, I shouldn't have got here, I shouldn't have got here, I'm only going to get found out. Bottom line is, that's rubbish. That's your head. That's the narrative and dialogue that you are telling yourself. And here's the beauty of that. You can tell yourself to shut up. You can tell yourself you're not going to listen to that story, and you're not going to listen to that little voice on your shoulder saying, I'm not worth this. I'm not worthy of this. Self-esteem comes from the word self. So esteem yourself. You are worthy because you exist. You are worthy because you're doing the job that you do. You are worthy because you are loved in some context in your life, so you're worthy of everything. And here's a real truth that we talk about quite a bit in the Academy. If you don't like something, change it. And if you can't change it, change the way you think about it. The way in which your brain thinks is phenomenal. And it can be the biggest barrier that you will ever face in your life, is that thing that your own mind is telling you. Before any action you take, any single action or decision or choice you make is preceded by a thought. your own thought inside your own brain. So if your thinking is distorted or confused or stressed in any way, how likely is it to be that you're going to make a good decision or a good choice or a good outcome? How many of you wake up in the middle of the night and have heard a noise somewhere in the house? And your brain is telling you that someone's breaking into the kitchen downstairs. And what happens is your entire physiology changes. What happens is your heartbeat starts to raise, right? Your hands get sweaty. The fight-flight thing fits in. But here's the truth. It's your head that's told you that. It's your mind that's told you that somebody's breaking in downstairs. It's not that. It's a tap on the window from a branch or something. But your mind and the way that you think is so powerful that it can in seconds raise your heartbeat, make you sweat, make you scared, make you angry, and it's a thought that's doing that. So what we like to do within the Academy when we're teaching is we like to encourage you to know that your brain can choose its responses. You need to think about it quite carefully, but what you think will become an outcome. So if you choose to think positively and optimistically about a situation, you're much more likely to manifest something really good happening. If you're thinking about a situation that you can't necessarily control in a really negative way, then the reality is it's likely to deliver you a negative outcome. And I'll give you a personal example. So I've got 3 daughters, aged 9, 19 and 21. And when my 19-year-old first went to university when she was 18, over the summer, she was having interviews for a summer job, right? So I offered to take her to an interview in Oxford. And I can't stand traffic jams, right? Really deeply pisses me off getting caught in traffic. I can't bear to be late for anything. But we leave late on this occasion, and we're 45-minute drive it should be, and we're 40 minutes into the drive, and we've moved about a mile. And we'd hit this traffic jam, and it was a flipping nightmare. And I began to get stressed, really, really stressed. So I began saying, oh my God, we're never going to get there, this is awful, I'm going to have to turn around, I can't turn around because there's people behind me and we're stuck. And I'm starting to hitting the dashboard and I'm going, I'm getting so stressed. And she's sitting there really calm, which is really pissing me off because it's her. Right? And she's sitting there really calm and laid back, and I'm losing the plot, and the time is getting later and later and later. And we pass her interview time, and I'm thinking, oh my God. She's going, can I just put the radio on? No, you bloody can't put the radio on, because I'm so stressed. And she says, at one point, she said, Mum, I need to ask you a question. Oh, good. Okay then. She said, can you do anything about this traffic? Can you do anything about this situation? And I said, no, I can't. And she said, so why don't you change the way you think about it? And that really pissed me off. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, you could choose to think that I'm going to university in just 3 months' time, and this is an opportunity for you and me to have real quality time in the night, which we're never going to get. And I'm supposed to know this stuff, right? But she was right. I couldn't control what was outside of me, right? But I was letting what was outside of me totally affect the way in which I was thinking. Had I just changed the way in which I was thinking about the situation I couldn't control, I could have looked for the opportunity in it, which is what she'd done. So seek the opportunity. Put it on. Only put off until tomorrow what you're willing to die having left undone. I mean, you know, for me, I mean, I don't know whether it's fortunate that I nearly died, or no, it can't be fortunate, can it? But I did come through that illness thinking, oh my God, I've got a chance. I've really got a chance. I just kind of like to think, oh my God, if only I'd have known that I'd had these options and choices earlier, my life might have panned out differently. So if you feel you need to make a change, just do it now. If you feel like you need to strive for something, make a step now to get there. Because it can all just end. You know, life is short and it should be spectacular. So make the choices that will just enable your life to be richer. Next one. Here's some tips about planning your career going forward. And this is the recruiter, the old recruiter, who's dead now inside me, but the old recruiter. This is what you should, this is some advice of what you should do. So the first time, if you are in any position of thinking about what you want your future career goals to be, or your life to look like, give yourself the gift of time. People rarely bite personal me time out of their life. I got to the age of 45 before I even took a day at a spa. And that quality time on your own is vital. It's a gift that you should give yourself regularly. So give yourself some time to really, really think through and visualise what you want your life to look like and what changes that you want to make. When we do visualisation and visioning within the Academy, we encourage people to actually take themselves into a future nirvana. Take yourself into the future that you believe you really, really want. And write down what that feels like to be there. So actually visualising what, for example, the best 6 months of your life will look like. Where will you be working? What kind of environment? What kind of cultural values is that company going to have? What relationships are you going to be having with your peers or your bosses? What personal relationships will you have in your life? Will you be married? Will you have children? What relationship will you have with your parents and your siblings and your friends? How often will you see your friends? What will the home that you're living in look like? What kind of car will you be driving? How much will your bank balance be? Writing down those things is really quite powerful, because here's what happens. When you write something down, when you visualise something, it immediately opens some of the synapses in your brain. And if any of you have studied NLP, then you'll know that what then happens is you even subconsciously start to spot those opportunities.